Welcome to my channel, and I'm back with you once again with another video of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Nowadays I'm exploring the Airbus A310, which is a default plane for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and in this regard I'm making a series of videos in which I'm trying to break down all the information related to a flight into different videos so that it's easy for you to look for a specific information on my channel. In this video, I will tell you how to perform an RNAV approach, which is also known as the Area Navigation Approach or the RNP approach. RNP stands for Required Navigational Precision. There are two types of approaches. One is precision approach and another one is the non-precision approach. RNAV is a non-precision approach, whereas the ILS is a precision approach in which a ground-based device is used, which is known as the localizer. It transmits signals and the plane actually follows those signals and it lands. It's really accurate. Even at some airports, if you're performing an ILS Category 3 landing, minimums are set to 100 feet. So just like 100 feet above the ground, you can still decide whether to land the plane or perform a go-around if your plane is not properly aligned with the runway or the visibility is not really good. But for the RNP approach or the RNAV approach, at times the minimums can be 400 feet or 500 feet above the ground because it's a non-precision approach. So that's why you have to have some good visual range. And plus, you have to see whether the plane is aligned with the runway or not. You cannot totally rely on RNAV approach. So for this, the visibility should be good. And at almost 400, 500 feet above the ground, you just look at the runway, you are aligned, you can land, you can touch the runway at the right point. Then you go with the landing. Otherwise, you perform a go-around. So that's why it's known as a non-precision landing. Right now, I will be doing a short flight from Qatar to Dubai. It's going to be a really short flight. That's why I'm starting this video from the runway. And plus in this video, I will also give you introduction to level change and vertical speed because the profile mode doesn't work during the descent. The basic purpose of the profile mode is to actually make the autopilot follow all the constraints during the descent. The constraints related to altitude and to the speed. What I've observed is this, that this plane actually follows the speed constraints. It controls the speed, but the altitude, it always misses the altitude. So that's why you have to rely on level change and vertical speed. So, I will also give you an introduction to it. Before I proceed further, we have to select an approach. I have loaded all the flight plan and everything is done. I've configured the MCDU. All we have to do is this, select the runway for the landing. So for this, what you have to do is this. Simply go to flight plan and just scroll down. You will see OMDB. And for OMDB arrival, you have to select RNAV. So I will be landing at runway 12 right. Now this is how I've made the flight plan. So for this, I will select RNAV 12 right. And then there is a transition and then you have to select the star. So now let's go and look at the approach plate and plus the star charts in order to see which one to select. So this is the operational flight plan, and in the operational flight plan you can see this flight plan is coming. This is the SID and this is the star VUTEB3B. If you are not really familiar with how to read the flight plan, I have a video on my channel for this plane in which I've told you how to configure the MCDU, or there's another video in which I've told you how to start the plane from the cold and dark state. In that video I have explained it in detail. So this is the star and I will be using VUTEB3B for the arrival. Now let's go and look at the charts and let's see what is going to be the transition. Actually for this video I'm not using the Navigraph charts which are for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, the built-in plugin. I don't know, my Microsoft Flight Simulator is crashing a lot when I'm opening those charts in the simulator. That's why I'm using the external charts application. You should have access to it. It's really good because once you're performing departures and arrivals, obviously you should be looking at the charts in order to create more awareness regarding the approach procedures and the landing. So right now on the screen you can see this is the star, and if I click this you can see VUTEB3B is selected. So the plane will come to this point VUTEB and the altitude should not be more than 12,000 feet. As you can see, this line is above and then the plane will actually follow this path and it will eventually come to this point, REREC. So that's why this point is known as the transition point, because you can select even 3E as well, and you will go right, and if you're using 3B, you will use the left path. In both the cases, you will actually either you are taking 3B or 3E, you will actually come to this point. So that's why it's known as the transition point, because this is also the initial approach fix, and from there then you will proceed with approach. So redirect is going to be the transition. So if you look at the approach plate, I will also explain the approach plate to you. As you can see, it says IAF redirect. Over here, your speed should not be more than 185 knots, and the altitude should be 3000. Okay, so that's it. And let's now select the approach, and then I will do the flight, and I will take you through the procedure, how to manage your descent and how to perform an RNAV approach. So over here in the plane, let's select redirect and VUTE 3B, and simply press insert. Now if you scroll through the flight plan, let's change it to plan, and let's zoom out a bit. And now if I just scroll, you can see this flight plan is coming, and similar to what we have seen in every graph charts over here. Okay, and do we have any discontinuity? Let's see. No, we don't have any discontinuity, which is right. So I can now proceed with the flight. Once I start before starting the descent, what I'll do is this: during the cruise phase, I will then tell you how to configure the MCDU for the approach, and then from there I will tell you how to manage the descent and land the plane using RNP approach method. So let's now prepare the plane for the approach and for the landing. First of all, we have to set the minimums and the wind speed. So first of all, let's go over here on the MCDU and select this option, takeoff and approach. And over here you have to select the MDA, which is the decision height or the decision altitude. So for this you have to actually consult the airport charts. So if you look at the approach plate for 12 right Dubai, you will see that for the LNAV and VNAV option, as I've selected this RNP chart, RNP runway 12 right. So that's why this is LNAV and VNAV, lateral navigation and vertical navigation. So different altitudes and heights are coming. For this video, I will select this 449, the maximum. This is actually the altitude measured in terms of barometric pressure, and height in terms of radio signals. So 449 and 438. And the runway elevation is 11. So this is what we have to actually also consider. So let's enter 449. And over here, decision height 438. Let's select this. So I will keep it at 440. And the landing elevation, as you can see, it's coming over here. So it will be, I'll set it to 100 because you cannot change it in tens. So that's it. And the last thing that you have to do is this. You have to enter the wind information. So for this, go to this option, progress, and over here you will see descent forecast. So there are different, basically 4 lines which you have to fill. Give the wind information for Dubai International Airport, and then the wind at 20,000 feet, 15,000 feet, and then 10,000 feet. So now I will tell you how to read this information from the operational flight plan so that you can enter this information. So in the operational flight plan, if you scroll down and you look at this airport weather list, you will get the wind at Dubai International Airport, and it is 310 degrees and the speed is 30 knots. So you have to enter this 310/13. Now this is there. For 20,000 feet, 15,000 feet and 10,000 feet, you have to actually look at some other page for this information. So if you just go up, you will see this page which says wind information, and you have wind information for the descent at 35,000 feet, 31, and this is the wind information at 20,000 feet, 15,000 feet, and 10,000 feet. Sorry, 100,000, not 100,000 feet. So I will just enter this information in this format. You enter 200, which is the flight level, 20,000, and then you have the wind 298 degrees slash the speed is 0 to 1. That's it. And then you have flight level 150, 15,000 feet slash 004 degrees slash speed is 009. That's it. And for 10,000 feet, 100 slash 096 slash 007. So now you have the wind information and you have the approach information. This is really important to enter minimum decision altitude 449, because this actually determines the glide slope or the glide path. In when you're talking about where you say ILS approach, it's known as the glide slope, and when you talk about the RNAV approach or RNP approach, it's the glide path. So now I have to start the descent. So if you look at the star, as I've shown you before, at this point, let's see if we can see it over here instead of looking at the charts. You can see this thing that at VUTEB 12,000 minus, so it means 12,000 or below. So that's why I will initially descend to 12,000. Although I should have set the descent altitude to maybe 2,000 or 3,000, because 3,000 is for the initial approach fix, and the profile mode should have followed all the constraints. But as I've told you before, this plane doesn't follow the constraints, so that's why you have to do it like this. So set it to 12,000 feet, and then I will keep it in profile mode right now, and then I will change it to vertical speed, or maybe I will also use the level change option. But during this video, I will also tell you what is the difference between using the vertical speed, the level change, and the profile. So I'll press this button. Once the arrow is down, I will simply click here, and then you will see vertical deviation appearing. As soon as the plane is near the top of descent, the vertical deviation will appear over here, and the descent will automatically start. Let's wait. And if it doesn't start, you again have to move your cursor to this button and you press it down. No. So let's do it again. So I think the profile was not working, so I changed it to level change. So you can see the vertical deviation is now coming, and if it doesn't work with you, the profile, you can use this option. Now you can see this arc is coming. This arc is actually indicating that by which point the plane will be at the given altitude. Once you select the level change option, remember this thing, that the priority is given to the speed. Plane actually tries to manage the vertical path in such a way that the speed doesn't increase. Right now you can see it's a very high descent rate, so that's why the speed is constantly increasing. But in order to manage the speed, you can see now the vertical speed is getting adjusted because the speed is 336. So the vertical path is not steep. You can see it's now at 4,000. So that's how this plane actually controls the vertical speed. Now you can see this arc is somewhere around here, and we still have some space or ground to cover. I will just show you over here as I've turned on the constraints. If you want to see the constraints, just simply press this button, constraints, and you will see this information on the navigation display. Remember this thing that once you're performing an RNAV approach, you cannot descend on the profile. Once you are at the initial approach fix, the plane should not be in the profile mode. The plane should be in altitude hold mode or level change. Only then you can perform an RNAV approach. So as now you can see, this vertical path is really steep, and it's the descent is aggressive. So you can also control the vertical speed yourself. What you do is this: you bring your cursor over here to this knob and you click this, and now you can see the vertical speed is coming. So I will set it to, let's say, 3,200 feet per minute. Now you can see this arc is moving ahead, and now you will also see the speed will decrease a bit because the descent is not that aggressive. Maybe if I keep it at 2,600, this arc will move, you can see, forward, and the speed will also reduce. If the speed doesn't reduce, you can always engage the speed brakes, because at this point you also have to make sure that the plane is not more than 230 knots. So you also have to manage the speed. And plus also look at the transition altitude so that I can change the altimeter. So if you go over here and you open this chart, which is for the star, you will see the transition altitude is 150, which is 15,000 feet. Let's also activate the plane so that I can see where the plane is. So the barometric pressure in Dubai is 1006. So what I'll do is this: I will keep the vertical speed at 2,000 feet per minute, the descent, and I will also reduce the speed because I have to be at 230 knots if I'm not wrong. Yes, 230 knots. Let's see if the speed is reducing. Yes, it is reducing because now the vertical speed is exactly 2,000 feet per minute, the descent rate. And now as I'm below 15,000 feet, I can change the barometric pressure. Bring your cursor over here. Once you see this up arrow, just press it and then set it to 1006. Now the altimeter is also set. Remember this thing, obviously, if you're even performing an ILS approach, this setting up the altimeter is one of the most important things. And obviously, if you're performing an RNAV approach, it is also very important because, we have set the minimum descent altitude in terms of barometric pressure. So that's why you have to be careful. So this arc, you can see at this point, I will be at 12,000 feet. I can further reduce it. Oh, sorry, I have to go the other way. Maybe I can keep it at 1,200 feet per minute. Now you can see the speed is reducing. And if you look at this gauge, you will see that at the speed of 245 knots, I can have slats by 15 and 0 flaps. And at 210 knots, 15 flaps and 15 slats. So I can also extend the slats and the flaps at lower speed, and now you can see the plane has now leveled off and the speed is reducing. I can also get 15 slats. Just move this lever down. Now yes, the speed is lower than 245 knots. Oops. It's working. I can use my controller for this. Okay. No, I have 15 slats. It's important to have the slats because obviously uh, they provide drag, not only lift, because the main purpose of the flaps and the slats is to provide drag so that the plane speeds reduces once it's descending, and plus at lower speed the wingspan increases because of the flaps and the slats. So that's why there is an additional lift for the plane at slow speeds. Managing the descent is one of the most important points while performing an RNAV approach with this plane. So now after this point, 12,000 below, you see there's another point, IVUTI, and 10,000 below. So after this point, I will then change the altitude to 10,000, and then I will press this button to start the descent to 10,000. Let's keep it here. By this point, you can see 7,000 below. That's it. Now I will set it to 10,000 and press this button. You can see the moment I pressed it, it's actually a pull function of this button, and now it has changed to flight level change. So again, just to revise, in flight level change, the autopilot maintains the speed and adjusts the vertical speed in such a way that the plane descends and the speed remains at 230 knots. So in this mode, priority is given to the speed, and in vertical speed mode, the priority is given to the vertical speed. So right now, if I change it to the vertical speed, then the speed might change. Let's see if I just show you. It's right now 1,600. Maybe if I go for 3,000, you will see the vertical speed will be 3,000 and speed will be increasing, because right now priority is given to the vertical speed. Okay. So let's go back to flight level change, and as soon as I go back to flight level change, it is on altitude hold because 10,000 feet is there and the speed is also getting reduced. So that's the feature of the flight level change and the vertical speed. So now as I'm at 10,000 feet, I can turn on the lights, the runway turn off lights, logo lights, wing lights, and landing lights. Let's turn on all the lights. Engage the speed brake. It's already engaged, and plus bring this gear lever in the middle and set the auto brake to medium for the landing. Because as soon as I activate the reverse thrust after the landing, the speed brakes will come into action. And then after below 100 knots, when the speed is less than 100 knots, I will deactivate the reverse thrust, and then the brakes will come into action. So everything is looking good so far. So now this is the star, and you can see all the speed and the altitude constraints are coming. DB4 to 7 below 7,000 feet or 7,000 feet, and then at DB4 to 6, I will reduce the speed to 210 knots. And then over here, less than or equal to 6,000 feet altitude, and over here the speed should not be more than 185 knots. The final heading towards the runway, 119 degrees. If I just look at, yes, you can see the final approach course is 119. So this is coming. This is the initial approach fix, and this is the final approach fix, DB658. As you can see, after this, the plane has to follow this vertical path. Now 7,000, I have to descend to 7,000. So again, set it to 7,000, press this button again, it pulls out, and then the descent will again start. And maybe I can also reduce the speed to 210 knots right now. So first the speed will reduce because flight level change gives priority to the speed. So the first priority is the speed, and then the plane will descend. And with this, as you can see, I can extend the flaps to 15 at 210. So I will just extend the flaps one more notch, and that's it. So now you can see that roughly by this point, yes, the arc is moving. This arc should be here. If it is not, then I can switch to vertical speed mode in order to control the vertical speed. So what I can do is this: I can increase it, keep it at 2,500 or maybe 2,900, because before this point I have to be at 7,000 feet or below. And if required, I'll also take the speed brakes. But right now it's not required. Yes, overspeeding. So what I can do is this: I can also get the speed brakes, get rid of this overspeed error. Now the plane will level off, and the speed is also getting controlled. That's it. I can then disengage the speed brakes and arm them for the landing. Now at this point, 6,000 below. Okay, so I have to set this course over there in the FCU, which is the flight control unit. So these are the 2-3 points which you have to take care of: the initial approach fix, and then the final approach fix, which is DB658. And this is actually the distance from the runway. This is this point is 3 nautical miles away from this, and then further this point is actually 3 nautical miles from this, and but 6 nautical miles from this point, and so on and so forth. And at different distances, different altitudes are coming. At 6.5 nautical miles, altitude should be 1990, because this path is calculated based on this number, which is coming 2.80 degrees. So the decline or the descent rate is 2.80 degrees. So as per this calculation, at different distances, different altitudes are coming, which your plane will automatically follow. And this is what I will tell you how it will follow. So go to 6,000 feet and then again start the descent, because by this point I should be at 6,000 feet. I can further reduce the speed to 200, maybe, in order to avoid this overspeeding thing, because I'm just at the mark. So every time the plane will descend, you will hear this error. So this is, if I am not wrong, you actually also see Sharjah Airport. Is this Sharjah? Let's see. Yes, this is the Sharjah International Airport, as you can see. So that's why I was telling you, you should have access to these airport charts. It's really important to study them in order to see what to do and how to manage the approach. And then on the approach plate, you also have these missed approach procedures coming. If I just get rid of these lines and everything, you can see the missed approach procedure is coming. You have the ATIS for the weather, arrivals, and this is the radio frequency. Okay, so let's look at the constraints and see what is the next constraint. Is it the speed? Yes, over here I can reduce the speed before this point, 185 knots. And after this, you can see at redirect, I should be at 3,000 feet. So what I can do is this: after this point, I can start the descent and I can go up to 185. I can adjust the speed to 185 knots, start the descent, and be at 3,000 feet over here, because it says 3,000 above. So either 3,000 or 4,000, but I have to be. But at this point, DB658, it's 3,000. No A or B is coming, so you have to be at 3,000. So maybe I can also start the descent from this point, or maybe here, anyhow. But on these 2 points, I can be above 3,000, but at this point I should be at 3,000. So that's how you read this. And you can see the vertical deviation is coming. This diamond is in the middle, so it means I am following the vertical path. But eventually, after some time, this diamond will go up, which will mean that I am lower than the descent path. And if this diamond goes below, it means I am higher than the descent path. If I'm lower than the descent path, it's not an issue. But if I'm higher than the descent path, that's an issue. Then I have to descend at a higher rate in order to get this diamond in the middle. But if it goes up, it's nothing serious. After some point, this diamond will come in the middle, and you will see this thing in this video. Let's see that by 185 knots, as you can see, I can have 20 slats and 20 flaps. So 2 more notches. I'll bring it down. I'll not go to 30 and 40. Yeah, let's go over here, and you can see the slats and flap settings that I've selected is 30/40, which is full flaps and full slats. And you can see the approach speed is coming 126 knots. So the plane will automatically reduce the speed. And this is the approach phase, which will be activated once I am near the final approach fix. Let's wait for it. I think we can reduce the speed. I can bring it to 185. Now you can see 20 slats and 20 flaps. And the speed is 185 knots. As you can see, it's coming over here. So maybe at this point, DB414, I can start the descent to 3,000 feet. As now you can see this diamond is going down, it means I am higher than the, getting higher than the descent profile or the vertical path. This will eventually go down because I'm not descending right now. So once I'll start the descent, then this diamond will start to come in the middle. So once you are at the final approach fix, this diamond should be in the middle in order to activate the RNAV approach. And it's a very simple procedure. All you have to do is this: just press this button over here, and then set the altitude to 100 feet, which is the level to which you want to descend, because you cannot set it to 11. It's in thousands or hundreds. So let's say if your runway elevation is, I'm just giving you an example, is 2,000 feet, then you might be flying at 5,000 feet. You have to descend to 2,000 feet. And then you press this button profile, and the plane will automatically start to follow the glide path, which is a descent of 2.8 degrees. And the speed will also reduce to 126 knots. So this will happen automatically. I will not do anything in this regard. This diamond is not moving. Let's see if it moves. Now I can set the altitude to 3,000 and press this button again. Level change. Speed will be maintained at 185 knots, and the plane will start to descend. You can see this arc is now coming. And or maybe I can change it to vertical speed and set it accordingly. And let's to be on the safe side, reduce the speed to 170 knots. Because at the final approach fix, if you're at 185 knots, the plane has to actually reduce its speed to 126 knots. So that's why you have to do this calculation again, because the speed which is given in the approach plate on the star chart, it is actually the maximum speed, allowed maximum speed, but you can go below that speed. So right now you can see this arc is moving, and I should be at 3,000 feet by DV658. So what I can do is this: I can further decrease the vertical speed, and you can see at this point it's coming as 3,000 above. No, with this given vertical speed, as you can see, I will not be at 3,000 feet over here at this point. Oh yes, no, I will not be. So I will set it to, let's say, 700 feet per minute. And now you can see this arc is moving down. So before this point, I will be at 3000 feet. Okay, so this is how you will do it. Now you can see this diamond has gone up. So it means I am below the vertical path. So once this diamond is in the middle, then I will do it. It's just like performing an ILS approach. Once this diamond comes in the middle, you press this button, land, and the plane automatically starts to follow the glide path. But for this, in order to control the speed, you have to actually also activate the approach phase on the MCDU. But over here, you will not activate the approach phase. You will change it to feet. Right now, it's coming in degrees. You press this button, it will change to feet. And then you will adjust the altitude over here to 100 as well. So this is what I'm going to show you how it will be done. So right now, you can see the speed build signs are on. All the lights are on. And I've set the auto brakes. Speed brake is armed, and that's it. Let's change this heading to 119. That's it. In case of a missed approach, I will be flying in the heading mode in case. So that's why you have to set the heading. Speed is 170. I can further reduce the speed. Let's say I keep it at 160 knots. Now you can see these two runways for Dubai International Airport, 12 left and 12 right. I will be landing at 12 right. There's one trick that I do is this, that in order to be on the center line, I always keep the runway between these two buttons over here, just in the middle. So if you center the line over here, you will be pretty much on the center line. I think it's windy. You can see the wind is from this direction, 243 degrees from the right side. So that's why plane is going slightly tilted. Now, if I press this button, you will see the vertical deviation is coming minus. It means I'm below the vertical deviation. Once you see roughly minus 10 or minus 5, then the main game will begin. So just press this button once you are near the final approach fix and set the altitude to 100. Oops, sorry. I'll just change the units to 100. Just bring the cursor over here. Once you see the up arrow, you will change it to 100 and press this button, the altitude hold. Minus 540. I have to press the profile button. Now, the profile button will come into action. This will actually follow the vertical path and the speed will reduce to 126. Right now, the speed is 160 knots. You can see this diamond is also coming in the middle, just like the ILS. Minus 70, 60, 50, maybe. Now, if I press this profile, you'll see the slide and then it will just go away. And now the speed will also reduce. The descent has started. And you can see the speed is reducing. Now, you can see the runway OMDB12 right. This is coming over here, 119 degrees and 8.6, 8.5 nautical miles away. So just at 6 nautical miles, I will lower the gears and extend the full flaps. Because right now I cannot extend full flaps. I will hear an error. Now, the autopilot will actually follow this glide path of 2.8 degrees. And you can see there is hardly any vertical deviation. The diamond is in the middle and it's following. Minimums, you can see decision height is coming 440, as you can see it over here, decision height 40, but you will hear a call out at 400. And now you can see the speed is reducing and is reducing. It's not going below because I haven't extended the flaps. Now maybe at 6.7 nautical miles I can lower the gears, wait for the gears to be deployed, and then I will extend the flaps, and then you will see the speed will reduce further. Now you can see the speed is reducing as I've got full flaps and full slats. And here's the runway, pretty much aligned with the runway. At any time I can turn off the autopilot and do it myself. So this is how you actually manage the descent and perform an RNAV approach and landing using the Airbus A310 by iniBuilds. It's a bit tricky. You have to do it many times. I also practice it like 5-6 times. Interestingly, I've recorded 2 videos before this video, and I was not really satisfied with it. Once I was editing it, I was not really happy. So I had to do it again. As you can see, the center line is almost over here. I can disengage the autopilot, just press this red button and just press it again to get rid of this error, and then you can just take the controls in your hands. But just make sure this diamond remains over here in the middle. Okay. So if it goes down, you go down. If it goes up, you go up. But just keep it in the middle and the center line over here. So the gears are down, everything is looking good. All I have to do is just concentrate on this diamond, try to keep it in the middle. – 800 feet. Now you can see the speed is automatically getting adjusted because I turned on the profile mode, so that's why the speed is getting adjusted. Because in the flight level change in the vertical speed mode, you control the speed, not the autopilot. But in the profile mode, the speed is controlled by the pilot. So that's why the speed reduced from 160 to 126 knots. And now you can see this diamond is slowly coming in the middle. So then I can start to go towards the runway. Here you go. Looks like a good landing, hopefully. I've been practicing. So this is the minimum. So right now, if you see you're not aligned with the runway, you cannot land, then you can always perform a go around. I will also try to make a video in order to show you how to perform a go around or a missed approach with the Airbus A310. Now I can just land this plane. So I'm pretty much on the center line. So reverse thrust active below 100 knots. I can deactivate the reverse thrust. And now you will see. Oops, actually I gave thrust, so that's why this error came. You can ignore this. Anyhow. So this is how you land this plane. Actually, I have the thrust adjusted to the controller. It's reverse thrust on the thrust controls. So that's why you have to really make some little adjustments. I'm using the Thrust Master controller for the Airbus. So that's how you perform an RNAV, an RNAV approach, and you land the plane. If you have got any questions, you can ask me in the comment section. Nowadays, I'm a bit lazy in answering to all the questions because I've got a very busy schedule. But anyhow, I will just try to take some time out and give a reply to your comments and to your questions. Thank you very much for staying with me. Have a nice day. Hope to see you soon.